Last month, I moved to a small town in New Mexico. I hoped to find inspiration for my photography. The dry desert landscapes were beautiful. I thought I knew what I was getting into, but I didn't expect what I saw. I can't stop thinking about it. One evening, I set up my camera near an old church. The sun was fading, and a cool breeze picked up. I noticed a group of townspeople standing under a flickering streetlight. They formed a tight circle, leaning close together. They whispered among themselves. I felt a chill run down my spine. They barely glanced at me, like I wasn't even there. It was eerie, and my heart raced. The next day, I went for a walk in the neighborhood. I spotted my neighbor, an older man, staring up at the sky. His mouth moved, but I couldn't hear him. Was he praying? It felt strange, but I shrugged it off. My camera felt heavy around my neck as I walked. As dusk fell, I saw children playing in the streets. They were running and laughing, but something was off. Their games seemed serious, like they were doing something important. I almost took a picture, but it felt wrong. A knot tightened in my stomach. A few days later, I visited a cozy cafe. I overheard two women at the next table whispering. They kept glancing toward the window, their eyes wide. I couldn't catch everything, but I heard snippets. It's getting closer, and the time is near. Anxiety swelled in my throat. I peeked outside, but the street was empty. What were they afraid of? I began to connect the dots. Every sunset, neighbors would gather outside. They stared at the sky, faces tense, as if waiting for something. Confusion and fear swirled in my mind. One evening, I decided to confront it all. I walked over to the group at the church, heart pounding. "What's going on?" I asked. They turned to me, eyes wide, but nobody said a word. It felt like I had crossed an invisible line. Slowly, they dispersed. I stood there, frozen, under the flickering light. A cold shiver washed over me. I hurried back to my casita, the chill of the air thick around me. I felt something was wrong, like the town was hiding a secret. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. I heard whispers outside, like they were talking about me. Dread gripped my heart. Suddenly, there was a loud knock at my door. I froze, fear pooling in my stomach. Was it the townspeople? I needed to know what was happening here. I took a deep breath and approached the door. I slowly reached for the handle, my hands shaking. What awaited me on the other side? I felt the weight of their stares, the fear of something unknown. I had to face it. I opened the door slowly, each creak echoing in the stillness of the night. My heart thudded in my chest. I half expected to see the townspeople gathered, their faces a mix of anger and fear. But there was nothing, just an empty porch and the chill of the night settling around me. I peered out, searching for any sign, but only shadows danced in the pale moonlight. Then, I heard it again, a whisper. It was faint but unmistakable, drifting from the direction of the old church. Curiosity flickered with anxiety in my mind. I stepped lightly off the porch and moved toward the sound. The air felt heavy, laden with an anticipation I didn't understand. As I approached the church, I squinted into the darkness. The flickering streetlight cast strange shapes on the pavement. I could just make out figures gathered again, but this time, they were standing in a tight formation, backs turned to me. I hesitated, inching closer, hoping to hear more of what they were saying. "It's almost time," one voice said. It was low and rasping. Tonight is the night," another replied. And my stomach dropped. What were they doing? What did they mean? I knew I should turn back. Yet something pulled me forward, a need to uncover the truth. Suddenly, a dog barked nearby, breaking the tension. The group flinched, then swiftly turned, their eyes locking with mine. A rush of panic surged through me as I stumbled back, scrambling to find my footing. I turned on my heel, darting away from the church as fast as I could. Panting, I made it back to my casita and slammed the door shut. I leaned against it, my breath racing. How could I explain what I had just seen? The fear in their eyes, the urgency in their whispers haunted me. Should I call for help or just leave? A part of me felt I was overreacting, but the other part screamed to get out now. Before I could decide, a faint tapping emerged from the side of my house. I froze. It sounded like fingertips drumming against the wall. I edged toward a window, pulling the curtain aside just a bit. My breath caught in my throat. A figure stood in the shadows, barely illuminated by the glow of the streetlight. It was a child, gaunt and pale, with wide, dark eyes that seemed to hold a depth of knowledge far beyond their years. They didn't move, they just watched me. A thin line of fear threaded through my chest. Then, they lifted a hand and pointed toward the church. No words were spoken, but the gesture felt like an order. I reeled back from the window, heart racing. I couldn't stay here. Something was happening, and I was in the middle of it. So I grabbed my camera, my only tool to understand this place. I needed evidence, or at least a way to capture what was unfolding. I stepped back outside, the cool air wrapping around me like a shroud. What was I about to discover? I moved quietly through the dark, my camera clutched tightly in my hands. The night felt alive, the air thick with tension. The path to the church was familiar, but each shadow seemed to guard a secret. As I reached the edge of the churchyard, I saw the same figures now illuminated by the pale moonlight. They were still gathered, their backs toward me, but their posture was different. It was as if they were waiting down. I crouched behind a half-hidden tree, heart racing. I didn't want to be caught spying, but I had to know what was happening. The whispers were louder now, resonating with a chilling urgency. I pointed my camera, steadying my breath. Then a shuffling sound caught my attention. My stomach tightened. From the darkness emerged the child, the one from my window. They glided towards the group, their feet barely touching the ground. A sense of dread washed over me. What was happening? The figures turned toward the child, their faces obscured, but I could feel their collective attention shifting. I focused my camera, hoping to capture this eerie moment. "It's starting," one of the figures said, voice trembling. The urgency in their words sent a shiver down my spine. I snapped a picture, the flash illuminating the night for a brief second. That's when everything changed. The figures turned their heads, their eyes locking onto the light. Panic surged through me, and I ducked behind the tree completely, heart pounding in my ears. What had I just done? The rustling and whispering intensified. I couldn't see them, but I felt their unease ripple through the air. I glanced through the branches, trying to remain hidden. The child stood eerily still, pointing again toward the sky. Something flickered above the church, drawing my eyes upward. A shimmer, a light darting across the sky, moving fast like a predator chasing its prey. It seemed to pulse with an ethereal glow, bathing everything in a ghostly hue. The group reacted. They staggered backward, murmuring in a mixture of awe and fear. My breath caught in my chest. What was that? Then, without warning, the child turned and locked eyes with me from the distance. I felt an icy grip on my heart. Their expression was no longer passive. It felt charged, demanding. I understood then that I wasn't just a witness. I was part of whatever was unfolding. Just then, a loud crash erupted from the church, breaking the tension like glass shattering against stone. It was as if the very building was protesting against what was happening. The figures turned, and in that split second, I made my choice. I wasn't just going to watch. I had to know what was really going on. I sprinted toward the edge of the churchyard, hoping to slip between the shadows. I couldn't let fear hold me back. It was time for answers. But as I fled, I didn't notice the darkness shifting behind me. Someone or something was watching from the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. My heart raced faster, my instincts screaming that I wasn't alone. Then, a chilling whisper floated on the breeze, "You shouldn't have come here." Everything went dark. When I came to, the world around me was still cloaked in darkness. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. I blinked rapidly, struggling to regain my bearings. It was as if I had been pulled beneath the surface of a cold lake, and only just found my way back. Panic gripped me. Where was I? Had I been knocked unconscious? I tried to move, but my limbs felt weighted, as if I were wading through thick mud. Gradually, shapes began to form in the shadows. The church loomed before me, its silhouette sharp against the night sky. I pushed myself up using the rough bark of the tree, my heart pounding louder than I thought possible. Then I heard voices breathless and urgent. I pressed my back against the tree and strained to listen. "Get it ready," one whisper urged. It was the voice from before, trembling and filled with an urgency I couldn't ignore. "We don't have much time." I squinted, trying to see what was happening. Finally, the shadows shifted. I saw the figures again, the same ones from before, but now gathered in a tighter circle, faces still hidden. They were holding something bright that flickered ominously in the darkness. My instincts screamed at me to run, but the curiosity and fear kept me rooted. What was that? What were they planning? I couldn't make out the details, but something about the way they moved sent a chill down my spine. Then, shifting from behind the tree's cover, I caught a glimpse of the child, the one who seemed so otherworldly. Their eyes were fixed on the group, unblinking. As they raised their hand, the flickering light brightened, bathing the area in a surreal glow. I felt my breath hitch. Suddenly, I heard soft footsteps behind me. My heart dropped. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. My eyes widened as I saw a figure emerge from the shadows, a tall figure draped in dark fabric. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but the thrill of adrenaline held me still. "Why are you here?" A voice broke through the damp night air, smooth and chilling. "You don't belong." It was low and menacing, reverberating as if coming from a deep well. I stammered, my mind racing for an explanation. "I wanted to know what was happening." The figure stepped closer, and an almost unbearable pressure filled the air. My pulse quickened. There was an undeniable malevolence in their presence. "You should have stayed away," they said, eyes narrowing. In that instant, the light from the child flared again, illuminating everything. I caught sight of the objects in the figure's hands, strange, flickering devices that resembled lanterns. They pointed them toward the child, and in that moment, I knew I was witnessing something beyond my understanding. Then the darkness was thickening again, swallowing the light, and I realized too late that whatever was about to happen would leave me changed forever. I had to choose: run or confront whatever was unfolding before me. I didn't think. I turned and ran, the weight of fear pushing me faster than I thought possible. Branches snagged at my clothes as I darted through the trees, each footfall echoing in my heart. I could still hear the whispers behind me, the urgency of their voices urging me to stop, to return. But all I wanted was distance. I had no idea where I was going. The path was a blur, shadows looming and snapping at my heels. I stumbled, my shoe catching on something unseen, and landed hard on the ground. Pain shot through my knee, but I pushed myself up, breathless and driven. I had to escape. Just as I thought I'd put space between us, I heard a voice call out. "You can't hide from the truth." It rang out through the silence, filled with a power that caused the hairs on my neck to stand on end. I pressed on, desperate to lose them. My breath came in ragged gasps as I broke free from the trees, bursting into a small clearing. Moonlight flooded the area, a stark contrast to the dense gloom I had just left. I paused for a second, trying to gauge my surroundings. The clearing felt oddly familiar, as if I had been here before. Then I saw it, the church, looming just ahead. It felt wrong to go back, yet I was drawn to it. My feet moved almost of their own accord, leading me to the weathered doors, their paint peeling and flaking in the moonlight. I reached out and pushed one open, the creak echoing like a warning. Inside, it was dark, but faint rays of moonlight slanted through the stained glass windows, casting eerie patterns on the stone floor. I moved carefully, the stillness humming around me. As I inched forward, I brought my phone out, hoping to use its light. But when I turned it on, the screen flickered and went blank dead. Panic gripped me again. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling in the vast emptiness. No response came, only the whisper of the wind outside. I glanced back toward the doors, my mind racing. Maybe I could run again, but deep down, I knew I wouldn't make it far. Suddenly, movement caught my eye. In the corner of the church, where the shadows painted a darker shade, I saw a figure. My heart stopped. I squinted, willing my eyes to adjust to the dimness. Then I saw it clearly, the child, the one from before. They stood alone, their expression unreadable in the half-light. "Why did you come back?" they asked, their voice soft yet resonant. I felt a shiver crawl down my spine at the question. "I don't know." I was scared. The child stepped closer, their eyes shining in the dark. "You have to choose. The truth or the darkness." Before I could process their words, the door behind me slammed shut with a force that rattled the church. Fear surged again, heavier this time. Trapped. The flickering light from the child began to pulse, filling the room with an unsettling glow as they raised their hand. That's when I realized whatever was happening, it was unfolding now, and I had no way to turn back. I froze in place, heart pounding, as the child's glow intensified. The light flickered, illuminating their face in sharp relief, but it also cast heavy shadows on the walls around me. The stories they could tell, the truths they held. I backed away instinctively, desperate to create distance. "What truth?" I managed to ask, my voice barely rising above a whisper. "The truth you fear," the child replied, stepping forward again. "The truth about them." "Who are you talking about?" I stammered, glancing over my shoulder at the sealed doors. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching, waiting. "Those who keep the darkness alive. You're closer than you think. Choose wisely." With their last words ringing in my ears, I felt a cold breath of wind slither through the church. I shivered, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. The pulsing light seemed to wrap around me, adding to the strange atmosphere that hung in the air. I was met with silence until a low thud echoed from the back of the church. It shook me out of my paralysis. "Hello?" I called again, louder this time, but my voice sounded small in that vast space. I moved toward the sound, each step heavy with uncertainty. The child remained still, watching me with an intensity that made me feel exposed. I looked back, and their eyes widened, the glow around them brighter than ever. "Don't go!" they urged, but I didn't stop. I needed answers, needed to understand what I had stumbled into. I reached the back of the church, my heart racing. A trapdoor sat slightly ajar, just behind the pulpit. The faint stench of mildew crept up from it, and I hesitated. Had they opened it? Did I really want to know what lay beneath? Curiosity clawed at me, the need to answer all my questions battling against the instinct to flee. I could hear my breath quickening again, drowning out any attempts at reason. A glimmer of something metallic caught my eye at the edge of the door, something left behind. I knelt and reached into the darkness, pulling out what appeared to be an old locket, its surface tarnished but still recognizable. When I opened it, a picture fell out, two faces I barely recognized, but one of them was unmistakably familiar. "Mom!" I gasped, recognition hitting me like a wave. My hands trembled as I turned the locket over, searching for more. But there was only a small inscription inside: "Find the light, before the dark claims you." Before I could fully comprehend the implications, the ground beneath me shook violently. I glanced back at the child, who now stood in the doorway, their features shadowed, foreboding. "We have to leave! Now!" they screamed, urgency lacing their voice. But as I sprang to my feet, the door that had just sealed so tightly burst open, and a shadowy figure loomed in the entrance. The air turned thick with dread, and I knew in that moment I was out of time. I was about to find out just how far the darkness would go to keep the truth hidden. I barely had time to react before the shadowy figure lunged forward, emerging from the darkness like a monstrous apparition. My instincts kicked in, and I turned, dashing back toward the pulpit, leaving the locket behind. The child shrieked, their voice piercing through the chaos. "Follow me!" they shouted. The light surrounding them now flickered erratically, casting eerie shapes along the walls. I didn't know what was behind me, but the urgency in their voice pushed me forward. I ran past the pulpit and toward the only exit I could trust, the main doors. A chill ripped through the air, wrapping around me like a vice. The air crackled with a tension I couldn't comprehend. I threw myself against the doors, but they wouldn't budge. My panic escalated, and I slammed my palm against the solid wood, desperate for freedom. The child rushed to my side, their glow illuminating a window just above eye level. "We can get out," they urged. I nodded, understanding the plan. Together, we hoisted each other up, straining to reach the small opening. I felt fingers graze my ankle as I mounted the ledge. My heart raced, and a gasp escaped my lips. I was acutely aware of the shadows closing in behind us. The figure loomed closer now, its shape solidifying into something more human, but with an aura of malice. I caught a glimpse of its face, twisted and familiar, a mirror image of the child I had just spoken to. My breath hitched in my throat. Who are you?" I squeaked, fighting against the force pulling me back. "Not here," the child insisted, pulling me closer to the window. "You can't stop now." The figure's voice echoed in the church, deep and cavernous. "They will never let you leave. You belong in the dark, just like the rest of us." The words slithered into my mind, igniting a cold sensation in my veins. With one final push, I squeezed through the window, tumbling onto the grass outside. I landed hard but scrambled to my feet, exhilaration and fear coursing through me. I turned just in time to see the child slip through the window too. They landed lightly, their glow bright as ever. "What was that thing?" I panted, scanning our surroundings frantically. The church stood menacingly behind us, but for the moment, we were safe in the open air. The child hesitated, their expression shifting from fear to something deeper. "It's part of what you need to know. It's connected to everything: your mother, the darkness, us." I was losing grip on my thoughts. "What do you mean? What darkness?" But before they could answer, I heard it again, a low rumble, like thunder, but closer. The shadows began to slither across the ground, coalescing into shapes. "The truth is about to resurface," the child warned, eyes wide with panic. "We have to find the light before it finds us." Then everything went dark. My heart raced as I blinked, adjusting to the dark around me. I could barely see the outline of the child. They had gone silent. Fear crept back in, tight and confining. "Where are you?" I called out, my voice trembling in the oppressive darkness. "I'm here," the child replied, their voice ringing like a soft bell. They stepped closer, and a flicker of light flared around them. For a moment, I was surrounded by that warm glow again, but it quickly sputtered, threatening to vanish. "What is happening?" I asked, glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see shadows creeping nearer. "We need to move. We have to find a way in," the child cried, eyes darting as if they sensed something I didn't. They stepped toward a wall, their light casting strange shadows of their own, and I followed closely behind. I felt the roughness of the church's stones beneath my fingertips. Panic compressed my chest. "The door. We need to get back inside." But even as I said it, I feared what lay within. The figure haunted my thoughts. "No." The child shook their head. "This is where it began." They pointed to a darkened doorway, almost swallowed by the shadows that surrounded us. My gut twisted. "We have to confront it." "What?" "No, you don't understand," I protested. "We need to escape. We can't run from our past." Their voice was firm, a pulse of determination cutting through my doubt. "You have to see this." With a deep breath, I stepped toward the doorway. An unseen force tugged at me, urging me to retreat. I hesitated, and the air thickened, as if the darkness itself pushed back. But the child's light beckoned, innocent yet commanding. We stepped through the doorway and into a narrow corridor lined with old, dusty portraits illuminated by the faint glow. Along the walls hung faces that felt both foreign and eerily familiar. I paused at one, a woman in a flowing dress, her eyes so strikingly like mine. "Who is she?" I whispered, fingers brushing the frame. The moment I touched it, a jolt of energy shot through me, and a vision flickered in my mind. I saw her laughing, playing with a small child. Shadows loomed behind them. "That's your mother," the child said quietly. "She was tied to the darkness, just like you are." The air around us began to hum, a low chanting echoing from somewhere deeper in the corridor. My thoughts whirled. "No! I don't want this!" But the child wouldn't he let go. We have to go deeper. It's the only way you can be free. Just then, the walls shook, the shadows twisting into a whirlpool around us. A low growl echoed from the depths, merging with the chanting. I stumbled back, mouth dry. What is that? Before the child could respond, a massive dark shape surged forward from the end of the corridor, teeth glinting in the faint light. Panic screamed at me to run, to hide, but my feet felt planted to the ground. Find the light! The child screamed, pulling me to stay. It's our only chance! My breath hitched as the darkness surged closer, threatening to swallow us whole, and I realized that the fight wasn't just for survival anymore, it was for the truth I had never known. I stumbled backward as the dark shape loomed closer, the shadows swirling around it like a tempest. What do you mean, find the light? I shouted over the deep growls that seemed to shake the very ground beneath us. Look! The child cried, pointing beyond the monstrous form. I squinted through the gloom and saw a faint glow emanating from an archway at the end of the corridor. It was a soft, inviting light that contrasted sharply with the encroaching darkness. Without thinking, I took off toward it, dragging the child along. We could hear the creature behind us, its breath ragged and hungry. Every step felt heavy, as if the air itself tried to hold us back. The chanting grew louder, reverberating inside my skull, and desperation clawed at my throat. I reached the archway, the light warming my skin as it wrapped around us like a soft blanket. I hesitated, looking back at the child. We have to face it, we can't leave it behind. I could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against us, and I didn't know how much longer we would last. The child's face was serious. You have to be stronger than your fears. Only then can you confront it. They squeezed my hand, determination flickering in their eyes like that light, and just like that, a surge of trust filled me. I stepped back into the corridor, my heart hammering in my chest. The dark shape was mere feet away now, its teeth sharp and glistening. With a bellow it charged. I closed my eyes, drawing on that flickering warmth inside me. The moment I opened them, I reached for the light that pulsed within. It surged forward like a tidal wave, crashing against the shadow. The beast halted, its growl transforming into a confused snarl as the radiance enveloped it. It shrieked, and the sound felt like glass shattering. The shadows writhed, but the light held strong. Keep pushing, the child urged, their voice fierce. With everything I had, I directed that light toward the monster. I felt it connecting with my power, weaving through my fear and doubt. It blasted forward, illuminating the dark, and for an instant, I saw something shift within the creature. A glimmer of the child I had once been floated to the surface, lost beneath layers of shadow. Suddenly, the glow flickered, and the corridor shifted. The walls began to crumble, the portraits fading into the ether. It's unraveling! I screamed. What do we do? My heart raced as the floor trembled beneath us. Follow the light, the child shouted, pulling me toward the archway again. But just as I took another step, the creature lunged one last time. I felt its icy breath brush against my face, and terror paralyzed me. In that split second, I realized it wasn't just a monster, it was a manifestation of my own nightmares. Then everything went dark. I felt a jolt, a wrenching sensation as the ground beneath me shifted. I gasped for air, vision blackening. As I lost consciousness, one thought rang clear. I wasn't just fighting for my life, I was fighting for every part of me that had been lost. I woke up on the ground, the cool earth pressing against my back. The sky was brightening, streaks of orange and pink breaking through the horizon. I blinked, disoriented, taking in the scene around me. I was outside the church, the old building silhouetted against the dawning day. My heart raced as remembrance flooded back, shadows, whispers, and a chilling entity pursuing me. Pushing myself up, I noticed I was alone. The child, the glowing figure who had guided me, was nowhere to be seen. I felt a gnawing emptiness in their absence. Something was lost in that dark battle. Had I truly escaped? Exhaustion rattled my limbs as I tested the ground beneath me, the weight of the night still clinging to my mind like fog. Above me, a hawk circled, catching the morning light. I gazed up, trying to shake the night's horrors from my thoughts. My stomach churned with unease as the memories flickered like the shadows within the church. The child's voice echoed in my ears, "Find the light." I climbed to my feet, brushing dirt from my clothes. The sun had risen much higher than I anticipated, and the world around me felt renewed, yet I was still fogged with confusion. I took cautious steps away from the church, scanning the surroundings as I made my way to the main road. The town felt eerily quiet despite the early hour, but the air had a clarity that hinted at hope. I needed answers. Should I get back to my workplace, show the pictures I had taken? None captured a fraction of the dread that had gripped me. I couldn't shake my uncertainties, but I also couldn't ignore the flickering warmth that had surged within me while confronting the darkness and obscure light that persisted amid despair. The vivid encounter lingered like a haunting melody. The truth or the darkness, what had the child meant by that? Were they a figment of my imagination, a piece of my mind conjured in a moment of crisis? Or were they something more? Were all those whispers in the wind tied to a truth hidden from everyone, even me? As I trudged forward, I felt my camera swing against my side, a constant reminder of the battle I had faced. I stopped abruptly beside a signpost. One direction led home, another to a neighboring town. I gnawed at my lower lip. Had I truly escaped? Or was the darkness merely lying in wait, biding its time? The unsettling questions filled my mind. Was the child linked to my past, somehow echoing the family ties that had drawn me back to this desolate place? I had unearthed more than twisted shadows. I held a locket still, tangibly solid in my pocket, but its full meaning evaded me, a remnant of connections, love, and darkness tangled together. The presence of the child beckoned to me through its mysteries like an apparition. Maybe it didn't matter if the supernatural or the natural explained it all. After all, the world is inherently ambiguous. What mattered most was the decision made under the weight of fear, the decision to confront the lurking fears that tried to keep us trapped in timeless shadows. And I had chosen the light, if only fleetingly. I turned down the road, uncertainty washing over me. I steeled myself for whatever lay ahead. This small town, with its vast secrets woven into the fabric of its existence, had left its mark. I knew I would never truly uncover all the layers of darkness hidden in its depths, nor would I ever return to who I was before. Sometimes, silence can speak volumes, and sometimes, the light flickering just below the surface is what we must understand to move forward. As I walked away, the sun illuminating the path behind me, I glanced back at the church, and then I began to wonder about what else lay in the shadowy corners of other towns, other stories yet untold. Would I be brave enough to seek those truths? Would I dare venture further into the unknown? A part of me remained forever changed.